Alright gang, how you guys been doing? This is Jason with H&S GAMES, coming at you with a sneak peek of Advanced Platoon Leader. Just a brief update letting you know where we are in the stages of things. And the configuration that you see before you, unfortunately, is the best way I can come up with to film via iPhone and all this other stuff. So I apologize if this is less than ideal. That said, we are talking about Advanced Platoon Leader today, and yeah, see, because of the glare, this is what we're looking at. That's the cover for it, and this stems from a project that was created a couple years ago, the base game Platoon Leader, which had a couple expansions. When it comes to Advanced Platoon Leader, you will not need to own nor even necessarily be familiar with Platoon Leader. This will be a self-contained unit. Pick it up, learn it, play it. You don't need anything that has preceded it. What's different from this and the original Platoon Leader? Well, more meat on the bone for one thing, but as we roll through it, some things will become apparent. That said, let's get to it, and I plan to break this down into two parts again because I'm filming this with an iPhone and can only film for so long and be able to upload to YouTube, blah blah blah. It has to be done this way. So the first part will consist of the first half, second part latter half, and that'll be it. So what you see before you here are the terrain cards, which is probably the most visibly distinct thing that will come across. You've got 12 of them, 4 columns, 3 rows. This is where action takes place, moving from right to left typically. So that's 12 cards. Each card has 12 squares. I have to do squares because if I was to do hexagons, these things would not align properly, and I could not live with myself, as anal as I am, having these things all staggered across the game board. So that's how we got to do it. Works out fine. As far as movement and firing, it may seem, again, a little alien at first, but you get used to it fairly quickly. So this is the rule book here, and it currently stands at about 15 pages. Will certainly grow before it's all over, especially considering I have things that have not even been begun yet. That is to say, random events are still completely up in the air. But this is the rule book, and you've got your table of contents, introduction, a breakdown of components, including the dice, which has since changed since this last edition has been printed out. You still have the hit dice, buckets of dice system, but additionally you'll have what is now referred to as a fire intensity die, which is this red die. Because of that red die, combat is now flavorful, fun, exciting, unpredictable, chaotic, all because of this little red die right here, the fire intensity die. We'll get to more of that later. Leaders and squads look somewhat similar to, if you can tell here, squad leader, advanced squad leader counters. The reason for that is twofold. One, familiarity. Two, I know and I mentioned this with Osfront, there are a number of you out there, and depending on how we go with this when we release it, probably some physical copies as well as print and play, both options. There's going to be a ton of you that don't want to mess with mounting counters. Fine, grab a copy of ASL Starter Kit number 1 or anything ASL with counters in it. You'll be able to use those in place of mounting counters. Stat cards, you've got weapons cards and unit cards. So a weapons card, this is a typical German weapons card, and this will consist of sport weapons with which each squad and a platoon may be carrying. You mark them accordingly with a marker of your choice or dry erase marker. Then you have the unit card or stat card, which breaks down the statistics of a given platoon, in this case a German platoon. This would be 2nd platoon, and You will list the strength of each squad on these 3 squares here, with the command action pool here, from which each squad draws from, which is different than the original Platoon Leader. So that is interesting. And then we have, what else do we have? Moving right along. Terrain cards, of course, which I've already shown you. And that consists of everything from streams, buildings, grain, open, gullies, marshes, hills, roads. It's all there. Algebraic notation, there's a way to break down the location of a given unit or units on this little terrain map configuration. So if you count starting the upper left, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc., you'll get all the way down to L, I believe. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Yeah, so this last one here will be L. And then within a given card is 12 squares, so you would just count 1 left to right and down to 12. So if there was a unit right here, that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if a unit was here, that would be known as J11. May seem archaic, but it's really nothing to it. Just takes a little, maybe a little extra effort. What else? Scenarios. Don't have anything concrete yet. Have a template of a scenario. Again, nothing concrete, and once we get those, we can really start banging out some play testing and making or breaking those things. Stacking, still up in the air. I think we currently have it where no more than 7 strength points may stack together in a single square. We may increase or decrease that based on play testing. Then we have a sequence of play, which is somewhat similar to a Platoon Leader, but different. So you're going to have the layout of the cards based on a scenario. That can vary as well. A couple of things that are up in the air, I'm not even going to list. Ammo check, which will probably be an optional rule. Then you have, you're going to determine the U.S. unit composition, and a couple of ways you can do this via scenario, which will tell you what your U.S. units will consist of and their strengths, or you can randomly roll for that. And that applies as well to any German units you activate. There is a possibility of rolling to randomly determine their strengths, which makes for interesting play. Then you have spotting and ambush, and I dealt with this in Ostfront as well, and I think it's needed. To assume that units can automatically see each other and go from there is a little much for me. I've always liked that, and I feel any tactical game worth a grain of salt kind of needs that in there, so we've got it in here. Then you'll determine the initiative to see who can act first, and then we'll expend action points to perform actions. To do that, you'll check the random events table, then record victory points. We have a section on how to win and the game length and turns. So when you begin a scenario, unless it says otherwise, you'll roll a die, whatever the number is. That is how many you will count down. So if you rolled a 4, you would count 1, 2, 3, 4. That is where you would start, and then count down from there to the end, the last turn. Bottom row is your weather. So that's what that looks like there. Then you have your action phase, which consists of lists all the action costs and what you can do. Combat, again, buckets of dice, hit dice, but this time around the fire intensity die, which, we'll get to that, yeah, let's go ahead and jump to that cover. But again, with the fire intensity die, in the original game, first of all, you have these suppression markers that you need to keep track of, and you can stack them and you can accumulate these things, quite a number of these things. That's all gone. With Advanced Platoon Leader, when a unit takes suppression, it is turned in such a way as if it were to expend an action. If it's suppressed again, it's turned again such that it is spent. If it's suppressed beyond that, it doesn't really matter because you can't do anything anyway, being as it is spent. So also with the fire intensity die, it will determine if a unit takes a morale check and can break. If the fire cowers, on any combat die roll modifiers will apply to this fire intensity die, bringing the final number up or down. All with this little die. Very excited about this. That is the flavor intensifier die, if you will. I had a coward die and a rate of fire die. Those are going to get chucked out the window. Coward die has been integrated into the fire intensity die, and the rate of fire die is going to change. Got your assault, which I need to develop, and then opportunity fire, of course. Also have closing fire this time around, so a unit that is spent can possibly, based on a number of restrictions and penalties, fire at a unit that moves adjacent to it. Excuse me. Then we have, again, combat results, suppression, which I've already dealt with, broken. Routing is a little bit different in this game. Each square is roughly 45 meters. And in a lot of these games, units will route anywhere from 2 to 3, I don't know how many squares or hexes away. When you consider that, again, some of these hexes or squares are anywhere from 40 to 50 meters, that can add up to 120 meters at times that these people are conceivably routing away because they're scared. I get it, they broke, they don't want to hang out, but to consider the fact that they would route that far is just a stretch for me. So what we got here is routing that will consist of really only one hex, and that is only if the unit is in the open or adjacent. Otherwise, he just stays put, which seems more realistic to me. Rallying, pretty straightforward, long range fire, nothing too fancy there. Command range, you're going to need to be within command range, otherwise you're not going to be able to expend 2 action points. You'll only be able to expend 1. And then deals with enemy activation, where, how many, what, etc. And then a couple pages on AI, and this is something else I'm very proud of. Aside from the fire intensity die, the new map, which can consist of a number of different variations because of the terrain tiles, it's the AI that I'm proud of. So for instance, when it comes to firing, you've got 6 options here. You go down the list, which may sound somewhat familiar. A couple other games deal with this, and you follow the order that is can be performed. Now, in the other games, you'll always start with the first one, work your way down. In this game, you're going to roll a die, and that is where you start on the list. Therefore, it still maintains its logical progression, but the unpredictability element is maintained. Therefore, that said, let's say you roll a die, it's a 5, that would mean you would perform an action that may not typically be performed because other actions would more often than not get performed before that action, if that makes any sense. So it adds, some flavor of unpredictability and some excitement. Opportunity fire as well as working in there for the old crowds. Random events is empty, as I mentioned. Still trying to determine how to approach that. I don't want something that feels just added on or just a kind of peripheral extension of the game. I want it to be near the heart of the game. Not so much that, you can go the other way and have a kind of narrative element that tells a story based on a random event, but then you cut down on replayability because then that becomes too predictable. So really still trying to figure out how to tackle that. And then we have spotting, of course, which I mentioned earlier, and ambush, which can result based on a certain condition stemming from spotting. Smoke, of course, smoke them if you got them. Weather, and then the campaign game. Campaign game will have your seasoning, where you can have elite, veteran, or rookies. Victory points, experience points, it's all there. Awards, unit replacements, leader losses. Playbook, which will consist of your scenarios. And also I'd add that you don't necessarily have to stick by the scenarios included. You can create your own. I mean, this much like Ostrom, this game has the potential to allow for a lot of tinkering, and it would be very easy for you to create your own scenarios and randomly determine a number of things therein. Example play, of course, nothing there, and designer notes yet to be written. So that is the bulk of Advanced Platoon Leader, and maybe I can get this all done in one brief episode instead of 2 separate ones. So that said, again, we're calling this Your Game, Not Ours, and we're really proud of this. We want you guys to be able to sit down and play this and have a great time and go from there. So we encourage any and all comments and questions. Please ask. Please give us some feedback. and we'll be happy to answer. So thanks for watching, and keep gaming.